This is the final part of Season 1 to Beauty in Black. If you haven't seen our other parts, haul your ass over to the description since it's gotten way too convoluted. Let's continue. Norman heads to the tow yard where Ina was found and interrogates the new security guard looking after the place. The man, who happens to be the brother of the previous guard who was killed, says that there was a silver SUV in the yard before, and now it's gone. Apparently the security guard had to clean the crime scene himself, but look at all that blood you done missed. The man also adds that there was no footage left in the scene. He doesn't even recognize Jules in the photo that Norman showed. Norman points to a photo of the security guard's brother, who is posing next to a yellow car similar to Charles's car. I wonder if Charles packed his fudge. Back at the company, Mallory is about to go home when Roy walks back to his office high and drunk. She tells him to go home, but he insists on staying because it's his company and he's the one who runs the place. The couple fight again, and when Mallory slaps Roy, Limp Dick snaps and grabs her by the neck. Calvin walks in on them, and knowing that the two are fighting, he refuses to leave Mallory even though Roy tells him to walk away. Roy points out that Calvin should not be addressing his wife by her first name and that he should just do as he asks. When Calvin refuses to leave, Roy tries punching him but falls on the floor instead. Calvin starts to soothe Roy's ego by saying he's just looking after him, and Roy immediately calms down after that. Roy is giving SDE. Varney returns to the hotel and apologizes to Charles for breaking up with him, saying that he loves him and will do anything to get him to stay, even having a spit roast. Charles forgives him right away, but says he will still go to the strip club to have fun and will return later. Despite being worried, Varney lets him go even though he knows that Charles may be in danger, as Norman is very vengeful. As soon as Angel and Kimmie walk into the club, Big Back Delinda and Crooked Body tell her to hurry her ass up. Angel talks to another dancer named Salvo and tells him that they will go ahead with their plan to kidnap Horace. Angel only lets him in on the plan because Angel is now carless. He asks Salvo to follow him when Horace takes him to his house, and Salvo, thinking he's going to earn $30,000, agrees to bring his boys to help. Body is already suspecting that something is going on with Kimmie and Angel, and she promises to find out what it is. Then she tells Kimmie to work harder because she will be bringing in a 16-year-old girl to the club the next day, and she will need someone to look after her. Anyone else want to slap Body? It's officially over between Calvin and Jillian because they are both sleeping with their bosses. Jillian promises to get back at Calvin for playing her, but Calvin is not even a bit worried by her threats. Meanwhile, Horace wants to go home when he sees Charles's car outside the club. However, the staff offers him their VIP drive-thru, and he won't even have to get out of the car. So Horace hands him some money and asks for Kimmie. The guy's shocked as hell because Kimmie average looking. When Horace drives to the parking lot, he stumbles on everyone getting their roast beef sandwiches filled with mayonnaise, and he can't help but feel a bit worried. Meanwhile, Charles is inside the club, trying to win Salvo over by offering him some money and drugs in exchange for sword fighting. Salvo doesn't want to give in initially, but the offer tempts him eventually, and he asks Charles to meet him in the bathroom in the back, just like how Charles likes it. Mallory sends Jillian home but lets Calvin stay behind. She warns Calvin not to forget his place and not to interfere in family matters because he doesn't have the right to do so. She also wants him out of the office after finding out that it was Jules who hired him. However, Calvin already knows how Mallory wants it, so he confidently flirts and talks dirty to her, despite Mallory calling him disgusting. She tries to keep a straight face even when Calvin has his hand between her legs and threatens to fire him. Calvin remains unfazed, and by the time he leaves the room, he knows Mallory loved it. Oh boy, the chemistry fire. My coochie steaming, y'all. Big Back Delinda sends Kimmie to the parking lot where Horace is waiting. So Kimmie approaches Angel to tell him it's time to start their plan, unaware that Body has been monitoring them closely. When she gets in the truck, she's annoyed that Horace says he doesn't know the club is dealing with something illegal. She thinks he's just pretending, and even when he hands her some money, she grumpily takes it from him. Horace still doesn't know why Kimmie is mad at him, but he hands her a note with his address and a key to give to Angel. He wants to meet Angel at a different place that night. When Kimmie gives the money to Delinda and Body, they are both shocked that the session finished quickly. I don't know why when some men only last 30 seconds. Angel assures Kimmie that everything will be fine, and she doesn't have to worry. He promises they will only hold Horace hostage until they get the money they need. Meanwhile, Norman calls Jules back to ask him if he has found out who hit Ina. Jules explains that he did a thorough investigation and found out that it was not Roy, Charles, or even Mallory. The crypt keeper is furious because he knows Jules is lying to him. When Jules asks him why he requested a cleanup team, Norman reveals that his wife died, but he doesn't divulge any more information than that. He is convinced that Jules can no longer be trusted because he works for Horace and his sons. Back at the club, Big Package Salvo tries to do Charles in the bathroom, thinking that is what he wanted. But Charles tells him to meet him after work and they can head back to his place where there's more drinks and drugs to enjoy. So Salvo agrees after finding out that Charles has a lot of money. On their way out of the office, Calvin drops all formalities and talks frankly to Mallory. Offended, Mallory slaps his face and warns him, but this only escalates the tension between them. Calvin takes the chance to make a move, and he starts working on his boss's tax returns in the elevator. The club is already closing when Delinda wakes up Charles. He panics when he realizes his watch and phone are missing, but he doesn't have the chance to look for his things because Delinda calls for a guard to drag him out. Kimmie is shocked that Angel told Salvo about the plan, but Angel assures her that Salvo can be trusted. They drive to the address Horace gave them, and Kimmie says she hasn't been to that house before. Angel promises her that nobody's going to get hurt, so she should stop worrying. They get inside and Horace and Angel head upstairs while Kimmie waits in the kitchen. Horace notices that Angel keeps checking his phone, but Angel explains that he's just messaging his baby mama. Meanwhile, Kimmie receives a phone call from Rain's number, and she is surprised to hear Rain's voice when she answers the call. Kimmie had initially been told Rain had died. As Rain explains that an old man had her moved to a nice hospital, Kimmie sees some masked men entering the house. Knowing that Horace was kind to her, she rushes upstairs to warn Horace and Angel. At the same time as Charles's yellow Lambo passes by the private road, bullets rain on the vehicle, causing it to explode. Kimmie tells Horace they need to find another exit. However, Kimmie warns Horace a little too late. The masked men barge into the room and threaten to shoot the three of them. They are looking for the money, and Horace quickly helps them open the safe. While they're busy stealing the cash, Horace takes the gun he's hiding and shoots all the intruders dead. Bitch! The way I gasped and laughed out loud when Temu Morgan Freeman done annihilated them all. Angel is terrified, and he begs Horace not to kill him. He explains that it was all his plan and not Kimmie's. An intruder's phone rings and Horace orders Angel to pick it up and to tell the caller that the work is done. Horace wants to know the location of the warehouse the caller mentioned, but Angel assures him that he doesn't know. They explain that the plan was to kidnap Horace and take some money before letting him go. So Horace confronts Kimmie for not trying to stop the plan, even after he helped Rain. Kimmie says that she didn't know that Horace moved Rain to a different hospital. When Kimmie mentions owing Horace a lot of money, the old man is confused, so Kimmie finally talks about Jules and how he runs the club, with Horace as the head of the illegal business. She says that Jules is their pimp, and he got them off of different crimes with the help of a judge named Harold Collins. Horace is genuinely shocked by this revelation. Calvin is still not done with Mallory, even after they got home. He wants to do it in the master bedroom while Roy is away, but unfortunately, Jules calls him to run an errand for him. Meanwhile, Roy calls Lena and asks to meet her at a restaurant. Before that, Roy tells his driver, Alex, to head to the liquor store first to get some drinks. I hear over-drinking can cause flaccid spaghetti. Roy should probably stop. Alex takes the opportunity to report to Jules, but Roy outsmarts him and takes off while he's on the phone. Having no other choice, Jules tells Mallory about the problem and reveals that Roy is about to meet with the lawyer, and they are lucky that his driver overheard where they will be meeting. Angel is still panicking, and he thinks they have to keep going until they're far away from Chicago. But Kimmie is already doubtful if Horace or Jules knows what the other is doing. She saw the shocked expression on Horace's face when she mentioned Jules, so she thinks even the old man doesn't know anything about Jules's business. Rain calls asking Kimmie to visit her at the hospital, so even though Angel doesn't want to, he doesn't have any choice but to accompany Kimmie. Jules and Calvin arrive at Horace's other house and find the dead bodies in the bedroom. Upon checking, they find out that the intruders are from the Be Safe company, the same company that made and delivered Horace's safe. Then Horace mentions wanting to meet with an old friend, Harold Collins, and Jules pretends that this doesn't bother him. Roy's already drunk by the time Lena arrives. She immediately talks about the lawsuit while he tries his best to flirt with her and avoid the topic. Roy asks Lena to drop the case, and in return she can work in his company as the head of their legal department. That's when Mallory walks in and takes a seat beside her husband. She tells him to go home, but he argues and insists he's not leaving. So Mallory types something on her phone, and all the other guests get up and exit the restaurant, leaving just the three of them. She a boss-ass bitch. She then messages Roy saying her men will drag him out of the restaurant if he still refuses to leave. So Roy finally complies. Mallory then offers Lena a job at the company, but Lena is defiant and says she can't be bought. When Kimmie and Angel arrive at the hospital, they discover that Rain is one of the VIP patients. She's doing so much better now, although the doctors still have to work on her botched back alley BBL. She notices that something is off with Angel, but Kimmie assures her that everything is going well at the club. However, when Rain notices some blood on Angel's shoes, they realize it's time for them to go. Rest your ass, girl. Literally. Horace calls Harold and asks to meet him without saying what it is about. Even though he's confused, Harold agrees to come over for a visit. On their way home, Mallory keeps threatening Roy that she will tell Horace what he's been doing. Roy pretends he doesn't care, but when Mallory starts to call Horace, he tries to grab the phone from his wife. While they're fighting, Mallory starts kicking Roy, and he sees that she's not wearing any underwear. He suspects she's up to something, or rather something's been up her, and he promises he'll find out what it is. When they take the private road, they find a fire engine blocking the way and Charles' yellow Lambo burning. So Mallory immediately calls Horace to tell him to come to the private road, fearing of Charles's death. Meanwhile, Kimmie finds Body and Delinda waiting for her at her place. Body thinks that Kimmie is trying to replace her, and she intends on teaching her a lesson. That's when she shows Kimmie her younger sister in Delinda's car. Kimmie begs Body to let Sylvie go, but when she refuses, Kimmie strikes her, and they start beating up each other. Kimmie has finally had enough after getting her ass beat almost every episode. So Kimmie gets in the car and intentionally smashes Body into a parked car. Hopefully Body's BBL pops, but the show ends just like that. We're left in a major cliffhanger until 2025. What do you guys think about this chaotic mess of Tyler Perry's? I personally loved it, and for sure Charles isn't dead since they never showed him in the car. It was Salvo in that car who stole Charles' phone, watch and keys at the club.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.